Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of Got Your Six TV. I'm Keith, your host. Today, we're going to be spending some time to talk with a veteran of the Army's 10th Mountain Division, cycling enthusiast, even though he didn't do much of that over in Afghanistan, and an executive at an organization that was founded with one simple question from an American hero. If not me, then who? Got Your Six TV's mission is to enhance the lives of active duty veterans and their families. We provide a platform where our guests can talk about their military experience, what they're doing now, and share some of those lessons learned to help those that follow behind. As usual, we're sponsored by Your Move. It's a neighborhood discovery app. You can find it on iTunes, and as well, it's a military discount locator. So if you're up and down the East Coast, maybe in Philadelphia, you can find out where the military discounts are up and down 95. Check that out. We wanted to welcome Hugo Lentze, Director of Strategic Partnerships at the Travis Manion Foundation, a group we've been trying to get a hold of for a while, and so happy to have him on. So if you'd like to learn more about the Travis Manion Foundation and what it's like to try to fly a Blackhawk, stay right here. Travis, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me, Keith.
So, Travis, we like to start the show, like most times, back where you got started. And you had a pretty interesting career over within Army. One of the things that you were able to do, which most people I know would love to be able to do, although not get shot at while you're doing it, is fly a helo. Take us back to your experience serving in the Army.
Well, I loved being in the Army. I grew up in northern New York, and one day in high school, I realized that it struck me that we live in a great country. So I wanted to serve my country, but I also wanted to get something out of it. So I ended up going to West Point. I can't say I loved my time there. West Point, it's better from the outside looking in than the inside looking out. But I was able to branch aviation, which had been a dream of mine. Went to flight school down at Fort Rucker, Alabama. For flight school itself was about 6 months. I lived down there for a year. My first assignment was in the Sinai, Egypt. I got to fly Hueys around Mount Sinai and the Red Sea. It was pretty awesome. Came back to the United States and got a Blackhawk transition. So went from from a Jeep to a Cadillac, flying Blackhawks, and got to fly in all kinds of cool places: Haiti, Korea, Iraq. Just loved it, and well, it was a blast. Seeing the Earth from a helicopter is definitely a unique perspective.
Did the blades ever stop spinning while you were more than 100 feet in the air?
Luckily, no. I had friends that had to deal with emergencies. I think the only emergencies I had ever had to deal with were ones that were my own fault, but nothing bad ever happened. So I was lucky.
Yeah, those are beautiful weapons that we've got. It's great to hear you be able to do that. Now, what's interesting, if you had an aviation bent, why didn't you head out to Colorado Springs? Why did you choose Army? Yeah,
so in seventh grade, I went down to see the Air Force recruiter, and I said, I want to fly jets, and he kind of patted me on the head and said, come back in a few years. I have to be honest, my big choices were between Navy. Top Gun had just come out, so I wanted to be fly off carriers.
Sure.
But then I also applied to West Point, and through a fluke, the nomination that I was trying to get to the Naval Academy got me into West Point. And so that I just ended up on that path, and happy I did it.
I guess West Point wouldn't be happy if they let an upstate New Yorker head out to Colorado, right? They wouldn't.
I mean, we're all on the same side, so I'm not sure they would have minded too much. But considering my grades, they probably would have wanted me to go out to the Air Force Academy.
So, also while you were in service over in Afghanistan, and I think this is what's really interesting. I'd love for you to kind of put us in the room, if you will, where you're working with the Afghan Police Force now. For most folks, you hear about it on the news that the Americans are working with the Afghan Police Force, but not many people have had a chance to hear from someone who is actually in the room working with them to help train them. Tell us about some of your experience working with the Afghan Police Force that is unclassified.
Yeah, so working with the Afghans and the police was certainly a unique experience. I was up at what's called the regional headquarters level. So the commander that I was working with and the staff that I was working with were in charge of about 25,000 police up in northern Afghanistan. Um, to me, it was fascinating just being very much immersed in that culture. I enjoyed interacting with the Afghans. Not many of them spoke English, so I always had an interpreter with me. And your interpreter becomes your right-hand man. You're relying on him not only just to interpret your words and their words, but then also to get the feel of what's being discussed.
Right.
And as I said, I like to immerse myself in the country, so I went in their mess hall. Didn't get sick, but it was definitely not kind of U.S. standards. Delicious food, but definitely not a mess hall that I would ever go to on a regular basis. I enjoyed working with them. I have to tell you, there's a unique story. So I was working with the operations officer of this Afghan National Police headquarters while they were providing security for elections, not presidential elections, but their parliamentary elections.
Sure.
And I helped him do some planning. And the day of the elections, I went into his office and I said, "Hey, how's it going? Is it going better or worse than you thought it was going to go?" A very standard answer for a U.S. Army officer or even in the United States in general. A comparison, better or worse? And he stunned me by saying, "It is what it is. It's going the way it's going." And to me, that was kind of the not the personification, but the epitome of kind of the differences in our two cultures. I hesitate to say it's bad. It's just different. And so to me, that was very striking, especially in terms of a military operation like securing elections.
Yeah, I think that's one of the core themes to me about America that differentiates us from, I think, all the other countries, in that feeling of exceptionalism, right? And no obstacle too big, no challenge too hard that we can't overcome it through, pick a method, right? We're going to get over that hurdle. And to me, I think that was one of the fundamental things that created this country. And some other countries, it is what it is, right? We'll just kind of do what we do.
And so being part of my career, I was working with NATO in France. And what struck me there was this lack of desire to do self-introspection. So anybody that's been in the U.S. military knows after you get done with an operation or a training event, you after action, you AAR it to death. And you're brutal because lives depend on being brutally honest. Other militaries don't do that. There's still this culture of political correctness and the desire not to offend anybody. And frankly, it hurts them because they don't learn as much as they could from their mistakes and their successes. So
yeah, exactly. And I think that's, whether it's core to America or core to the military and the AAR, you're going to find out where you failed. It doesn't have to be a big fail along the mission, but there were failures along the mission. If you don't know what they are and don't look inward, you're bound to repeat them,
Exactly.
And so I appreciate you sharing that, because not many folks will ever have an opportunity to sit down and have that conversation. So tell us a little bit about when you transitioned out, right? So sometimes it's transition smooth, sometimes it's a little bumpy along the way. What was your experience in transition?
If I'm going to use your two words, I think it started out smooth and then became bumpy as all get out. So I retired in 2013. I thought I had the transition thing down, that I wasn't so tied to the military that it completely defined me. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. That was a little bit scary. And I remember going into the transition, people say, "Hey, is there a test I can take where I'll know what I'm good at?" And they looked at me like I had a horn growing out of my head. So I had to go through some trial and error, and I ended up I found a job down here near Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Hated it. I remember walking in the first day for the interview, and all I saw was cubicles. I didn't hear anybody. I didn't see anybody. And I remember thinking to myself, whoa, this is not what I'm looking forward to. But the next breath was, but this must be my new normal. This is going to be what it's like. And I've since discovered that, hell no, it doesn't have to be like that. So I lasted there about 8 months. I left that job and decided to work at a bicycle shop because I wanted to chase that passion. I tried getting a job kind of at the higher level when I got out, but nobody would hire me because I didn't have any experience. So I decided to work at the bike shop. It was cool. I enjoyed it. But the best part about it was Ryan Manion, who's the president of the Travis Manion Foundation, came in one day to buy a bike. And so she's sitting on her bike. I'm adjusting it underneath her, and she finds out I'm a veteran. We got to chatting, and she said, "Hey, give me a call in a couple months. We're thinking about expanding one of our programs." I'd heard about Travis Manion Foundation and knew what they did on a very broad level. But she said, "Hey, give me a call in a couple months, and we're thinking about expanding one of our programs." So I did, and in January of 2015, I started working at Travis Manion Foundation.
I tell you, to me, opportunity is luck and hard work.
Yep. I remember, to go back to the transition question really quickly, I remember going to see Lone Survivor in the movie theater, and towards the end of the movie, where I know him as Marky Mark, right? Mark Wahlberg gets saved by the Americans. I started crying, and I'm not the crying kind of guy. And I was like, what is going on here? And I realized at that point that the support network I had within the military, whether I was captured, I knew that people were going to come for me guns blazing, or whether I was having personal problems, I knew there were resources to help me on post. All that was gone. Mm-hmm. And I hadn't even it hadn't really struck me until I saw this movie in Lone Survivor. And this was actually right after I officially retired. And that was like a thunderbolt to me, realizing that and then not really knowing what to do about it. So that's why I say somewhat smooth and then very rocky.
What would your sort of lesson and takeaway be? Because you have this incredible network for 20-something years, and then within a weekend, that network, that sort of core network for everything, is now gone, and there's this new sort of world. What sort of transition tips would you give someone that's maybe looking at a transition, whether they've been in 4 years or 30? What would you suggest they'd be thinking about?
Well, I mean, as weird as this sounds, and you and I talked about this a little bit before we started, was as soon as you're getting into the military, you got to think about what the future holds. Whether you're going to stay in for 4 years. I mean, when I graduated from West Point, my thought was, as long as it stays fun and interesting, I'll stay in. And it stayed fun and interesting for 22 years. It may not be that way for everybody, but you do have to think about what the next phase of your life is going to be, whether it's 3 years away or 20 years away, and always kind of have that in the back of your mind. And as it gets closer, concentrate more on that and talk to people that have been through that process. And there's plenty of people out there through organizations like ours and other veteran service organizations that can provide some guidance.
Yeah, I think that's great advice for folks. Well, let's go up to fast forward to where you are now. So Kismet being what it is, Ryan walked in, you guys had a good conversation, and now you're working with the Travis Manion Foundation. And what I find really interesting is character is a core theme of the foundation. Tell us a little bit about the mission of the TMF and talk a little bit about what character means to the organization.
Yeah, so Travis Manion Foundation's mission is to empower veterans and the families of fallen heroes to develop character in future generations. We want to build stronger communities through strengthening America's national character. This country was built on diversity, working together, supporting each other, being bold, and we want to. I think some of that is a little bit under challenge right now for whatever reason. No matter what your political bent is, our sense of unity, I think, now is a little bit broken. Yep. And so Travis Manion Foundation wants to strengthen America's national character by supporting each other. When I was in the military, I could put my wallet on a table and know that nobody was going to steal it. Yep. I could leave my locker open. I could leave my car unlocked. And to be able to live that way, to have that same comfort level again in our day-to-day society would be awesome. So to introduce people to that idea of supporting each other, of being unified, of having character, is essentially what we're trying to get back to. And that's why we leverage the experience of veterans and the families of fallen heroes who have been through that, who have experienced that kind of sense of unity, whether you're in the military, well, just in general in the military community, whether you're a veteran or a spouse, to get back to that America's national character, strengthening it and building stronger communities.
Love it. Love it. So what are maybe some of the key initiatives that you guys have coming up in 2018? You're community-based. You've got events and do you call them regions?
Yeah, we're separated into regions,
Yep.
but certainly, I mean, we're national for sure.
And you're national, but you've got these little sort of community groups and community regions that folks locally can, like you're in Philly, but there are offices all across the United States. And we'll talk about the website later, certainly the travismanion.org. Y'all have a great map of all of the upcoming activities. And it's super easy to, a guy like me went in 2 seconds, I could figure out what's by me and when, and how do I get involved? So,
yeah, and we were very focused on that because we do want people to get involved. So we have offices. So I'm physically in Doylestown, Pennsylvania, just an hour north of Philadelphia. We have offices in Philadelphia, DC, Raleigh, Atlanta, Chicago, Houston, and San Diego. So we pretty much have the whole country covered. And the intent behind this easy to use website is make it easy for people to get involved. And let me be very clear. You don't have to be a veteran. You don't have to be a fallen hero, family member to get involved in us. If you think that strengthening America's national character is important, you can get involved. We work with kids, we work with youth, we work with civilians, of course, veterans and families of the fallen, first responders, all to strengthen America's national character and build stronger communities. So coming up this year, we have what are called Operation Legacy service projects. They happen all year round. We can help leverage your community strengths to get an Operation Legacy service project. And we call it Operation Legacy because we want to leave the legacy of service to the next generation. We have veteran transition workshops that can help with the transition piece that I talked about, the part that I struggled with and that I think a lot of veterans struggle with. We have 9/11 Heroes runs all across the country. We had over 50 of them last year. Ways to honor fallen heroes, current veterans, current service members, first responders in the community. And we also do survivor expeditions where we help survivors through their healing and create opportunities for them to continue their service to the community. They did it while they were in the military community. They can continue to do so now that they're no longer technically part of that military community. They're part of the community at large.
So how did the survivor expeditions work? That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty awesome. I've been on a couple. They're obviously the vast majority tend to be wives and daughters, but I went on a male expedition. So these were husbands, fathers, brothers, and we did a service project. It was in Dover, Delaware. We did a service project in honor of you do it in honor of your particular fallen hero, but this particular house, we did some siding. We replaced her porch. She was an Air Force veteran, and the city had threatened to evict her because her house wasn't up to the standard of the local community. And so working with Habitat for Humanity, we swooped in and put new siding on her house. I'd never put siding on a house, but now I can. Got to use all kinds of cool power tools. And in the process, what ends up happening is the survivors are able to communicate freely with each other, right? They're in this little community of themselves where they don't have to watch what they say. They don't have to worry about offending anybody. And through that service project, they continue on their path of healing. And, oh, by the way, they're showing character and they're building a stronger community. So, I mean, it's pretty powerful stuff when you're actually on the ground involved.
Well, that sounds great. That's got to feel good to be a part of something so much bigger than yourself, and being able to give back and to be able to do it at local levels, at the community. You know, there's an expression, unfortunately, here in DC, we say all politics is local. But the point of that is you're helping this lady, you know, getting siding on her house. I mean, you know, what's better than that, right?
Yeah, and you know, the fact is, when you leave the military, and I didn't realize this, I kind of alluded to it earlier. The military was a significant part of my life, and when I left, that chunk went away, and I didn't realize it till later. And the fact is, a lot of us join the military to serve, and so when you leave the military and you're not serving anymore, there's an empty space.
Right.
And so what we focus on is getting that back, thriving, having a sense of purpose, having strong relationships, and utilizing your strengths. All things that we did in the military and in the military community, but that kind of evaporate when you leave that military community. And we create the opportunity.
Have you seen any communities that seem to embrace that model in some of the work that you've done, whether it's Philly or San Diego or down in Texas or others that have seemed to really rally around that concept? Is it maybe more of a military community?
Yeah, I mean, so I mean, as we talked about before, what we're really trying to do is highlight to a community that sense of that sense of character that existed in the military community and spread it to the community at large. So, yeah, I mean, the projects that we do in Philadelphia and San Diego, we had a team of people go down to Houston as part of Hurricane Harvey. People, and if you go on our website, you'll see it. There's people that realize that, again, it kind of hits them like a thunderbolt of, wow, this was something that was missing in my life, missing in this community that we have now replaced through these service projects and through the work that we do within the community. And when I say we, I'm talking about the community at large.
Sure, absolutely. So you run strategic partnerships for the foundation. Tell us a little bit about some of these companies that maybe you're working with and other companies, a lot of companies here in DC and others, that if they wanted to get involved with the foundation, how, not necessarily the website, but how does that relationship work? How does the engagement process work with you?
Yeah, so my job is to develop partnerships with other veteran service organizations and companies to increase our impact, to strengthen America's national character within the community. So in a very real sense, what this can look like is we help you with organizing Operation Legacy service projects within your company. I mean, a lot of companies now have employee resource groups. They have veteran resource groups.
Yep.
But I'll tell you, I mean, our entry point is veteran resource groups, but we expand that to all employee resource groups. To have an impact on the community. And the fact is, it makes business sense that if you're out in the community working on a service project or helping with a 9/11 Heroes Run, or your veterans are delivering Character Does Matter presentations, programs in the local community, that's nothing but goodness for your company. I think that the pinnacle of what we're doing right now is with Johnson & Johnson. Johnson & Johnson has a very well-developed, what they call a Veteran Leadership Council, a VLC. They've got councils all over the United States, as you can imagine, the largest healthcare company in the world.
Sure.
They understand the importance and the advantages that veterans bring to the workplace. And so I'm working very closely with them, specifically in 2018, to really get those veteran leadership councils ramped up in their local communities, conducting Character Does Matter presentations, doing Operation Legacy service projects, establishing communities based on character within their larger community. And I mean, it's awesome. It's extremely gratifying to work with Johnson & Johnson. They're clearly a bunch of very professional people. It's been nothing but goodness. We're also working with Sodexo, and we welcome other companies to come work with us. Again, in practicality, what it looks like is working together to create these service projects, to train their veterans in Character Does Matter, and just get out into the community and strengthen America's national character.
I love it. I love it. So that'll get us up to the point. We'll talk about how folks can get more information, whether it's at an individual level or at a corporate level. We're going to talk about that here in a minute. But before we get to that, Hugo, we've got a point in the show we like to call the big idea. And that's where we have our guests kind of talk about something that maybe didn't quite go maybe the way it should while they were in service transitioning or as a veteran. And if they had the con and wave the wand and that problem is gone, what would it be and how would you solve it?
So I'm involved in a couple levels. Obviously, I had personal experience with this, and I'm also working on it in Philadelphia. Is a network of cities that have a handle on their veteran community in each city. Mm-hmm. So when I'm getting out at Fort Drum, New York, and when I'm thinking about what city I want to go to, there's a network of cities across the United States, New York, Philadelphia, Boston, Houston, Dallas, whatever, that can essentially kind of list what it is they do for veterans, what the resources that are available to veterans, and not just jobs, because I think, we need to put food on the table, yep. But what are the mental health resources? What are the support resources? And then what are the ways to keep that sense of purpose going, like Travis Manion Foundation? That would be, and I've spoken to Soldier for Life of the U.S. Army, and I think everybody wants to kind of get that going, but logistically it's a little bit of a challenge, and it requires working together. So that's my big idea of a network of resources available to veterans and service members. Not even only when you've gotten out, but veteran service members and their families across the United States.
And that would be something that would be at a company level or at a city level or both?
I think it would be a city level. And the companies or other veteran service organizations would feed into a citywide network. Mm-hmm. And the citywide network would then be, I kind of see this map on the wall that has hot links to go, okay, let me check out Philadelphia. You click on Philadelphia, and it brings you to a Philadelphia website that says, here's all the resources that are available for veterans. Same thing for New York City. Same thing for Houston, Dallas, San Diego, Los Angeles. Right now, there's no centralized repository for that kind of information. And I think if I wanted to move, let's say I got out and I'm in Philadelphia and I'm thinking, I'm moving to San Francisco. What's there for me? It's all right there. You can go to the website. Nobody, obviously it requires some funding, but it's mostly based on working together and collaboration between both organizations and companies in a city, and then the cities collaborating with each other.
Love it. Public-private partnership. Maybe that's something we get to the NASCIO guys, which is the National Association of Chief Information Officers, and put that on their table and say, guys, this shouldn't be that hard. I love that idea. Love it. Love it. As an FYI, the Department of Labor has a VETS program, and they're rolling out what they call a medallion program. And that will help highlight these companies that have that culture and a good sustainable practice around hiring veterans and military spouses. And it's called the Medallion Program. We're going to be doing some shows with the Department of Labor Vets Group, hopefully in the future, to help highlight that, to help maybe get it closer to what you're talking about.
Yeah, excellent. Good. I wrote it down. I'm ready.
I love that idea. That's a great idea. Maybe that's something that you'll be working on behind the scenes. And
I kind of am. So
good for you. Good for you. So, Hugo, what's a good way for folks to get more information? I'm going to go ahead and put your site up, but between your site and others, where's a great place for folks to get more information on the foundation and how to engage?
So I think if you go to www.travismanion.org, up in the upper right-hand corner is a red button that says "Join the Mission," and that is the fastest, easiest way to get involved. It'll ask you for an email. It'll draw you through some questions if there's something specific that you're interested in. If you don't have any kind of specificity, that's okay. You'll still be in the database, and somebody will reach out to you, depending on where you are, to engage and say, "Hey, saw you joined our mission. What is it that you're interested in?" And some of that, some people will join with something very specific, 9/11 Heroes Run, or I want to be a Character Does Matter mentor, or it might be more broad. Hey, I just love what you're doing. Tell me how I can get involved. But the first step is to go to the website and click on Join the Mission, so that we know you're out there and that we know you're interested.
Love it. I think that's a great idea for folks to do, not only as an individual level, but at a city level or at a company level. Please feel free to reach out, especially if you're at a company level. How do folks, if you're at a company, another Johnson & Johnson or say Merck or Baltimore Gas and Electric, want to reach out and say, hey, how do we get a relationship going? Do they reach out to you directly?
They can reach out to me directly. I would still say it's Join the Mission, okay, because there are options there. Again, we have awareness. You know, if IBM joins the mission, somebody's going to reach out to IBM. I guarantee you that.
Right.
Whatever that company may be. They can also reach out to me. My email. I don't know if you want me to talk about it, or can you post it?
Yeah, I can put it up online. Go ahead and.
Yeah. So it's Hugo Hugo.Lentze LENTZE at travismanion.org. So Hugo.Lentze HUGO.LENTZE at travismanion.org.
Hopefully I did that right. I'm trying to type on the fly, and these eyes.
You got it, man.
Used to be beautiful.
You're right there.
Mission accomplished. All right. Well, I tell you, Hugo, I love what you guys are up to. I love the mission. Hey, look, you know, if not me, then who, right? If that doesn't get you off your butt to be able to, whether you're leaning in on your community or you want to go, you know, help deliver groceries down the street or put siding up on the wall or go serve. Hey, it's a great mission. I really appreciate you taking the time to join us today.
Well, thanks for having me. It's great stuff. And I think a lot of your audience can identify with if not me, then who. I didn't realize it. That I was kind of living my life that way until I came in contact with Travis Manion Foundation. Now I'll tell you every day, I'm like, if not me, then who? If not me, then who?
Right.
It's a great way to kind of put a check on yourself.
You know what? I'll tell you this, being in the commercial world for a lot of my life, and then on the government, the other side, in the commercial world and even in the government world, sometimes you can look around and say, you know, it applies to commercial people as well, right? You look around and say, well, yeah, I don't do it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think what you'll find, I mean, it works in the military, and I think it works in the commercial world as well, is if everybody's asking themselves, if not me, then who? Doesn't mean you have to do everything, right, but if there's something that needs to get done, bring it up. You know, I completely agree. I think if organizations adopted if not me, then who, they'd become a lot more efficient and effective. Roger that.
Because sometimes you can hear it's not my job, and that used to make what's left of my hair out, right? So, hey, really great stuff. I appreciate your service. Appreciate you taking the time today, folks. Stay tuned for upcoming episodes on Got Your Six TV. We're going to have the CEO of Hiring Our Heroes and another veteran. And this, for the vodka fans out there, listen up. He's got one of the hottest vodka brands in the country, and he's a veteran. So take that, Russia. Hugo, God bless. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks a lot. Have a good one. If not me, then who?
You betcha.
Later.